welcome to another episode of Brothers Talk with your host, Dash the Creator. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing. Now, this is the interview, man, that I've been waiting for, man. This is the one that I've been wanting to do. You know what? Honestly, this is the reason why I even wanted to start the podcast is because of this man right here. I have the pleasure of speaking to my good friend for many years, John, aka Bad News. What's up, man? How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? Peace and blessings.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you. I just want to first thank you foremost for even agreeing to do this interview with me.
Hey, I appreciate you for wanting me to come on here and talk to you and have this conversation. I feel like it's a well-needed conversation for the community, for any community, for everybody.
Yeah, man. And one of the main reasons why I definitely wanted you on the show is because as I kind of navigate through life and I think about things and I learn more, I'm into a lot of books, a lot of different information and stuff like that. I come across things and I just think that there's things of value that need to be brought to the culture, bro. And people need to talk about that. I don't really hear anybody else speaking about. One of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the show was because, you do music, you make your own beats. And when I heard your story, I just was totally, completely inspired by it. I wanted to talk about it. But the thing that I think no one's talking about that needs to be spoken about is how amazing it is today's technology, how an individual person can control like their own destiny. Literally, you could make a beat, get all the equipment, do whatever you got to do, make the beat, publish that beat, create fans, and then now you have a product that you absolutely own. And in the music business, I think they call it masters, if I'm not mistaken. That's whatever the original completed file for your music is. And a
Right.
lot of people that sign with these major record labels don't own their masters. So they created a product. They don't own it, but what they do is they trade ownership for that product for some type of compensation. And then the music labels actually control their masters. They could do whatever, make money, as much money as they want to make, and only pay them a percentage of that. And I know I'm doing a lot of talking here. I apologize, but we're going to get into it with you. But I recently was listening to an interview with Steve Stout, and he was talking about, he's a music manager. He managed Nas for many years. But he was talking about how the music industry is kind of getting disrupted by companies like United Masters, how the individual person is able to make their own music, publish that music,
Mhm.
create a fan base. And then from that fan base, then they're going out and getting these contracts. But a lot of times it don't even make sense for the individual person to sign over their rights to their art, to their
Right.
creation,
Right.
because these record labels can't really do as much as they can do these days. So I think that's a dynamic story. But before we get into your music, I wanted to kind of get into some personal questions for people out there that maybe never don't know you, haven't heard of you. Obviously, this would probably go out to my circle of influence and people that I know and that people may know you. But I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a backstory. When did we become friends, actually? Because I remember I want to say it was back in Rob middle school.
It was middle school. I came out here from New York.
Mhm.
Mom was out in New York, single parent, raising me and my brother. My brother's 11 months younger than me. Big up to Jason. Jason
Mhm.
Randall, aka
Shout out
Good
to Jay.
News. So yeah, you're one of the first people. There's a couple of first people that I met. Going to Valenia Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania, living over there in Victoria Village. We used to walk blocks to go to school, and I remember meeting you. I was straight out of Brooklyn at the time, just a
Shout out
young
to
little
Brooklyn.
kid,
Mhm.
VK all day.
Right.
Just a young kid trying to find his way in life. And the hip hop back in the day, we're not going to say no names because I don't feel like giving out no age groups.
Right.
But it wasn't as important to me as it is today. Today's music is very much important. And just to give you a little background on how I started music, my uncle was a producer, Jerry Randall. He
Mhm.
was a producer. He worked with a lot of old school cats, old school greats, in hip hop music. He did some in R&B, jazz. He's a nice pianist. Any
Mhm.
instrument he can, anything that has to do with a studio, he knows how to do. My grandmother, God bless the dead, Rosalind Fitzgerald, she had a grand piano in her house. It was
Mhm.
amazing to me because we're talking about a big grand piano. And I was just a little kid. I would just step up on there and sit down and start playing with the keys. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know
Right.
how to create chords or anything like that. But just to watch people play music that really knew what they was doing to make sounds turn into something that's more creative than what you expected it to sound like is just fascinating. So that's
Mhm.
what kind of inspired me to get into music. My moms used to tell me, start learning this and start learning that. And My
Hmm.
mom, Brenda, she was very influential in my life as far as music, my uncle, my grandmother, things like
Hmm.
that. So once I became of age to understand what music does for
Hmm.
not only myself, but other people, cool. Shout out to Allen High School in Allentown, PA.
Yep.
Um,
Shout out to Alan. Yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
sitting in the ciphers in the lunchroom, and just battle rapping at the time. Bad One. There's so many of others. Stink, Khalil
Hmm.
Belfield. I mean, there's so many people that at that time I was just, writing my rhymes and going to the ciphers and battling
Hmm.
people and having fun. It was just fun, nothing of today's character where battling becomes dangerous now.
Yeah, I guess it can.
But it was just fun. And then to move on from there to watch you, Vincent, V Love,
Shout out to
uh,
V. Yeah.
shout out to V, Anton, you know what I mean?
Shout out to Anytime. Yep.
Wendell, Bub,
Yep.
aka
Shout out to
Bob,
Bub. Yep.
you know what I mean? To watch y'all, I came to a talent show, sat down in a
Mhm.
talent show. I didn't even know y'all was performing, you know what I mean? And all
Yeah, we was
four of y'all, all
we was
four of y'all
called
were good friends.
we was called DOP.
Right,
Yep,
DOP.
DOP. Yeah, dope. Yeah. Shout out
Yep.
to dope. Yeah.
All of y'all was good friends in individual ways. And next thing I know, I seen all four of y'all brothers get up on that stage
Hmm.
and
Put
rock
on a performance.
rock
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
crowd. Like I was stunned. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is interesting, right? That's a memory I would never ever forget. The way I felt in that audience to watch
Right.
y'all
Right.
on stage, man, is a blessing. Like even today, if I talk to V Love, I get
Hmm.
inspiration from him. We'll talk and I'll send him some music and I get his feedback on it and I send Bub music, Wendell,
Hmm.
I
Yep.
send you music. Haven't spoken to
Yep.
Anton lately. I don't know where he's at, but he was one of the people when I first started getting into music that
Hmm.
I had him come and sit down with my group at the time. We had a little group, we was doing
Hmm.
songs and whatnot and listen to us. And, he was basically our coach at the time. Shout out to that
Right.
man, because that man really can teach you he really taught me harmony. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He really taught me about harmony. So I took it a
That's
step
awesome.
further after that, man. I took it a step further after that and became an artist and started going to people's studios. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Forgive
Right.
me if I'm talking too much. I ain't never did a podcast before.
No, it's no problem,
um,
man. I don't mind. Listen, that's what it is. You're on here for everybody to hear you. But I would tell you that absolutely, man, because you're talking about music. One of the things is music has definitely, roots in our culture. I think that Black people are very talented people. I mean, not all of us can hold a tune. Not all of us, have rhythm. Like me, I've always struggled with a rhythm. And I remember even in church, I love the drummers, but I always struggled trying to clap on beat. But that was me. But I did love to sing. I was never much of a rapper. That was even though I did. You was mentioned on our group DOP.
right.
I think was it DOPE? I don't remember. It may have been. I can't remember. It was a while back, but I remember. I think it was Vince that actually wrote my rhyme for me, man, in that song. And I do remember that it was a school talent show that we did that. And I think back then we were big fans of the Boys the Men.
Boys and Men, yeah, boys and
Yeah,
men too. Shout out to them.
yeah, so we did a song, and I think I did the Michael Bivins part of that and everything like
Yeah,
that. But it was really cool, man. Bunch of dynamic individual people. We're a group, definitely a real great group of people, man. Some really wonderful personalities.
I agree. I agree.
If I had the opportunity to go back in time to meet our younger selves, I think that would have been cool just to interact because we had a nice energy about us and everything like that. And I think we were very positive. Nobody was
Right.
trying to do anything to nobody else. I didn't feel like, back then it was any like jealousy or none of that. So it
Yeah, I know
was,
that after that talent show, that popularity just blew. Like the popularity of the school, being in school after that talent show,
Mhm.
the ladies loved y'all. Hell, the men loved y'all. You know what I mean? Like I was in there, I was just floored. I was like, wow, these people killed this show. Like they actually killed their performance. This is nice,
No,
you
I
know?
appreciate it, man. Definitely good times, man. Definitely good times. So I know you kind of went through this process of creating your music, but before we get into that, I'm just a couple other little things. Like this is something that I wanted to ask you about because I really don't know this. We were friends for a long time, but I really don't know about this chapter in your life. You're a single father.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew you had a son, but I really don't know much more than that outside of that. No.
Yeah, I got custody of my son somewhere around, I would say he was like 3 or 4 or 5. I can't remember the times it escaped me. I got custody of my son. That was a big game changer in my life, with what I was going through at the
Mhm.
time. And my son really needed his father. And as a
Mhm.
black man, my mother was my mother and father. I usually tell people, hey, my mother raised me, but the streets grew me up. It's really different because, to be honest with you, my mother raised me, my son made me a man.
Mhm.
My son grew me up. He actually gave me that gift to be a man because prior to that, I was out there wilding and doing what I was doing, and if it wasn't for my son, I don't know where I'd have been at today because he actually like leveled me out. He actually gave me a reason to exist. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I got him. I don't really want to talk on behalf of, his mother. She's his mother, and I was
Mhm.
able to get custody of my son. My son needed me at that time. He had
Right.
a lot of what people would call mental, I would say mental health issues, bipolar, antidepressant or manic depression, ADHD, things like that. So at that time, I felt like my son needed a father in his life, and I was always in my son's life. I never not was in my son's life, but the tables turned where I became a single parent, and
Right.
it was a struggle, especially
I bet.
at the age of 21 years old, 22 years old, you growing up into your own. You're trying to
Right.
find out who you are, more or less trying to teach some child, your child,
Mhm.
who he is.
Right.
So there was a lot of times where going out wasn't an option. Going and hanging out with the fellas wasn't an option. Going to
Right.
the
Right.
clubs or the concerts wasn't an option because you had to stay home. There's times where, the struggle got real where only one of us can eat. Well, guess what? My son's going to eat. You know what I mean? I'll starve
Wow.
and
Yeah.
worry about food tomorrow.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was a struggle, but it was a great struggle because it grew me into the man that I am today. That kind of responsibility carries weight for you when
Right.
you get older, and things that you deal with now, you kind of bless. Like at the time I was going through it, I was like, why, God? Why? Why me? And I understand you're not supposed to ask God questions. There's a reason for everything. That's the reason why he does things. And as I got older, I understood why he did it. Well, I understood why I had to go through that struggle and walk through that turmoil because it made me who I am today. And without that, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know what would become of me if I didn't have the ability to raise my son.
Right.
And
No, that's
I always said, hey, my father did his thing, and God bless him. We have a good relationship now, but at that time we wasn't as close as we are today. But I always said to myself, I promise if I ever had a child, my son,
mhm.
my daughter, whoever my child would be, would know that I'm here for him no matter what, them for no matter what it is, And
Right.
like I said, that gave me the strength. God knew how to give me strength to manifest, to become something greater. And that I pride myself, I pat myself on the back because my son has children now. He's a man, he's a father, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right. First of all, I just want to tell you thank you for sharing that, man. Because, when you hear these stories, you hear it from a woman's perspective. Not too often do we ever hear of fathers, single fathers taking on raising their child. Even the part where you're talking about the hardships that you went through. I was just recently listening to a podcast, a story where this woman was talking about how she had got a house. She worked very hard to get a house, but because she didn't really understand enough about finances, she ended up getting behind in her mortgage and they were
Right,
going to foreclose on her house. And then the sad thing was, so I guess the bank had sent some people were interested in buying our house that was in foreclosure. So they sent some people over to take a look at the house. And it's just not funny, but they took a look at the house and it was a couple with a boy and a girl. And she said that she had painted her daughter's room this purple color. It was beautiful. It had lettering or some stuff on the wall. And the kids were going through, and I guess, when both children saw the room, they were kind of fighting which one of them were going to get the room. And the mother, seeing that not only that she was dealing with the stress of losing her house, but the fact that now these kids were there and they were fighting over which room they were going to get. And, she had to look at her. She was sitting there crying. I guess she was downstairs crying. Her daughter came up to her and said, Mommy, I understand it's okay. I don't care that we're losing the house. I just don't want
right,
that boy to get my room.
right,
And that even broke her down even more. But, I think with life, because, I even like myself, I've been financially challenged in parts of my life. I've made some terrible financial decisions. I lost thousands of dollars investing because of a miseducation, lack of education, thinking I knew something that I did not know. Things were more complicated than what I did know. But I guess the point that I'm really trying to get to is that we all start at a place of somewhere. And, the best stories are the ones that triumph over extreme adversity. It's one thing to say, hey, look, I got into investing. I was always successful. I always made a ton of money. Listen to me. But
right,
I think
right,
there's more credibility added to that individual person that says, listen, I've made all the mistakes that anybody could have made. I've learned from those mistakes. And from this dire, destitute, dysfunctional place, I was able to create some manner of wealth or well-being, whatever it is. And I'm using finances in the sense, but to hear your story, because I think it makes it even more important and real to your story that you didn't just come from nowhere or just was like, my life has been easy. I've been able to just maneuver through life with the greatest of ease. And now I make music as my part-time thing or my hobby or whatever. I don't know how you would define it, but now you make music. I think this is part of your story. I think it's a wonderful story. And I just didn't want to get too far into things without highlighting that fact that
Thank you.
here we got this guy that's a single father, raising his son. And obviously it has not been easy. But through all of that, now let's talk about the music.
Well, before we get into music, I just want to say one thing about that, just to touch one more thing on that, man. A lot of people say, how'd you do it or what you went through? And I hear a lot of men downgrade a lot of women. But I'm probably going to get hell for this, but I'm going to say this, man. It's one thing for a man to be a single father,
Right.
But for a woman, where I say is women are stronger than us men because women can do more than us men.
I agree.
As a single father, I only know how to be a father.
Yeah.
I never knew how to be a mother. Females can be a mother and a father. I don't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to nurture. My son fell. Hey, man, get up, wipe it off, stop crying, But females have that nurturing capability that men don't have. And that's the part of the things that my son was missing in his life was that nourishment, for someone there to nurture him. Big ups to all the single fathers out there and all the single mothers, man. I can tell y'all right now, man, big up to all of y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, man. I don't think it's easy, regardless of what your gender is, and you have a lot more single mothers out there doing it by themselves, holding it down. Especially I just had the opportunity to do an interview with my sister-in-law. She was like a divisional director of marketing. And one of the things that we talked about was there's not the same level of equality for women in the workplace. It's harder for them to move up. Opportunities aren't there. Maybe they're just not even looked at for opportunities for growth and development.
Right.
She also mentioned it's true, women don't get paid the same amount of money. So to do the same amount of work, to get paid less and not have the same opportunities. And on top of that, to, raise a family. And in some cases, it's multiple children. It's just amazing. And to be able to mentally keep it all together,
Yes,
so
yes,
that's again, like I said, shout out to the single mothers out there, but also I don't want to dilute even a man doing that because like you were saying, even with the things that you may feel are deficiencies that a man doesn't have the same type of probably nurturing spirit as a woman, but because society treats men a little bit differently. There's not as much support for men because as a man, you're expected to kind of do certain things. But I do think that men, fathers can be nurturing too. But yeah, of course, obviously it's not the same as a woman. Just like I guess you would say it's hard for women to maybe be, I don't want to use the word tough because that just sounds like I'm saying that women aren't tough. Women don't have the ability to be tough. I would say probably masculine, and what I think about masculinity is,
it depends on the character. My mom was out there throwing the football with me, shooting basketball with me. He's the one that got me into football when I was younger. So it all depends on the character. And we all know character starts to be built at home.
Yeah.
With the foundation. So it all depends on the individual's character,
Yeah, absolutely. But shout out to single parents, seriously.
Shout out, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you were telling me with your music, one of the motivation is you decided that, hey man, I want to rap, I want to be part of this. And it was because of the lack of consistency and having the ability to have a place to, record and the access equipment kind of led you down this path of doing your own thing.
Right. Well, I would say this is another key aspect of investment. I invested in myself. I was going as an artist to people's studio, sitting outside in the rain, the snow, and the hail, and the sleet, and all that, waiting for them to get to their studio, waiting for them to open up. You have producers, hey, I'm over at a girl's house, or I'm out with my friends, and I'm paying you. What are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Right.
You're going in the studios, ready to get to work, and one thing about me, I like to get right in the studio and let's get right to work. Let's get it in. You got producers that want to smoke before they do that on your own time. They want to talk about current events. Hey, I'm not here to chat with you. I'm here to work. I'm trying to get as much work in as possible. So dealing with all that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to invest. And I started investing in my own equipment. I got one piece of equipment, which was a Triton Studio 88 keyboard, 88 key, if I'm not mistaken, Triton Studio
Hmm.
computer. And Triton was kind of complicated at first because, I didn't have nobody there to teach me how to control a keyboard, a MIDI keyboard at that, and how to put that in the program and work with it. So I got my computer, I got my Triton. Now, what do I do with it? So
Right.
my family is sitting in the house. It's summertime. I'm like, hey, you know what? Go to Great Adventure, go to Dorney Park, go enjoy
Hmm.
your summer. I'm gonna sit in the house this summer and learn this piece of equipment. So when I'm ready to get into where I'm trying to get to, I know how to utilize this equipment. So the first thing you gotta know is you gotta invest in yourself. You gotta invest,
Right.
rather it's the equipment, rather it's the footwork, rather it's the, whatever it is, you have to invest in yourself. So that's the first thing I did. I got tired of being just the artist and
Mhm.
depending on people that I felt like I needed to become a producer and an artist. And
Yeah.
that's where it took me.
How long did it take for you to master this?
I can't even say that I mastered it because I'm still learning today. Like there's always something that you can learn today. There's
Right.
many avenues of getting to one place. There's many ways of doing something that you're learning something new from somebody else. I look on YouTube every
Mhm.
now and again and I see somebody else do something different. And I might take that aspect or take that type of tutelage and use it in
Mhm.
my craft. He might have made his kicks a little harder than mine. So I need to learn
Mhm.
how he made his kicks that hard. How do they hit so hard? How did that man make those beautiful chords with that piano line? I need to
Mhm.
understand that. And I sat back and I decided to teach myself certain things. I had my uncle who I would leech information off of him, but then I decided to go to school. I said, you know what? This is something I love. I got
Yeah.
into producing music. I love music. I've always loved music. So let me learn music. Let me understand music. So I went to school and
Mhm.
I got a little tutelage on that just to teach myself and take what I already knew and apply it with the professional, correct
Mhm.
way of doing certain things. There's no wrong way to do music, man. There's really not. There's no
Yeah.
wrong
No.
way to do
For sure.
music.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Some
would
people go off
imagine.
of ears, some people go off of sight. You can see music. A couple people read musical notes. There's no wrong way to do it as long as you get to the finished product. And if your music can tell a story and get there, then God bless you.
Yeah, I definitely think that I could tell you listening to your music. So what I remember was it was like maybe a couple of years ago. I remember you posting some. I want to say it was on Facebook. It might have been Instagram or something. I think it was Instagram.
Mhm.
And I remember it was like a beat or something. And I
Mhm.
remember listening to it like, oh, this is not bad. I didn't really think much of it. You know how you kind of
Right.
going through your scrolling and stuff like that. But then I don't know, we reconnected in the last couple of months or so, and you sent me some of your new stuff, and I was like, man, this really sounds professional. But I had a different ear for it because during the pandemic, I found this program on my laptop that I didn't even know I had. It's a Microsoft program, something Beats or something like that, and I started making my own beats and
Yeah.
making my own stuff, and it probably wouldn't have been something I would have done had it been any other time, but I was stuck in a house bored and you're finding new things entertaining. Oh my God, I watched almost everything, anything out there. I was one of those very few people that hadn't watched Game of Thrones, not
Right.
one episode of Game of Thrones, and I like finished the whole series in like maybe 2 weeks or something like that.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
but I started making these beats, and after realizing how technical it was and how hard it was, and that was with already pre-recorded stuff that I was really just piecing together, maybe changing the tempo or tune or something. I don't think I could really change the tune, but I remember how difficult that was. So when I heard your stuff, I was like, man, that sounds, because you can balance in the audio and all that stuff. And oh
Right.
man, I was really impressed. I was like, man, this guy has really come up, man. His music, it really sounds good.
Yeah, it's a tedious process. I mean, to be honest with you, if you ain't got the patience for it, you're not going to put in the work for it. I
Yeah.
mean, to sit down and listen to a beat over and over and
Yeah.
over, and maybe just one part of the beat over
Right.
and over and over and over until you get it to where you feel like this is it. This is where I got it. I could tell you, dealing with, especially, it depends on how you make music. I
Mhm.
personally deal with the keyboards, a lot of programs, Fruity Loops. My main go to program is Pro Tools. That's the
Mhm.
industry standard. There's reasons that I use. I even use, let me see here. What is that? I can't remember what the program is. I mean, there's just a lot of programs. And when you're
Mhm.
dealing with a lot of programs, a lot of keyboards, a lot of samplers, beat machines, things like that,
Mhm.
you got to learn how to manipulate sound frequency to make everything sound like it's coming off the same stage.
Mhm.
Certain frequencies is going to fight with other frequencies. So when
Mhm.
you're creating your sound, you have to learn how to separate the frequencies so that the kick don't
Right.
fight with the bass don't fight with the piano don't fight with the horns don't fight with the strings, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So it becomes a tedious process. But when you love doing it, when you take something, it's like an artist. They got a blank canvas and they
Mhm.
start putting that paintbrush and they draw that line, and now that line becomes a tree with the background of a mountain and some waterfalls and there's birds, and then you sit back and look at the finished product. It's like, I did that.
Mhm.
Wow,
Uh,
I did that.
and so I'm curious, as you mentioned that, I'm thinking to myself, like, where do you find your inspiration? Because I remember me, like, sometimes I would just play a beat. It would just be something like a drum beat, just boom, boom, and
Mhm.
then from there, I would create all this stuff just from that. Like, where do you find your inspiration? Like, when you sit down to create a new beat, do you have something in mind, or is there something that you listen to going into it, or
I
like,
mean,
how do you
sometimes
even begin?
sometimes it's in my head. I'll sit down, get ready to lay down for the night after a long day's work and want to relax, and all of a sudden I hear this sound in my head. It might just be maybe the piano line going ding 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 ding, and it's playing in my head all day long until I'm ready
Mm,
to lay it down. So I gotta go lay it down. Let me get this piano. Let me lay it down. And ding, ding, ding. No, that don't sound like that. Ding, ding, ding. No, it don't sound. Oh, there it
mm,
goes. There it go. I got it. Ding, 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 ding. I got the sound now. So
right.
now from there, it depends. Sometimes I have the whole track in my head.
Mm,
The drums, the 808s, the piano. The background. Maybe sometimes I hear some vocals in the background. Sometimes I just start off. I might have a song in my head where I'm just singing the words, and I want to just build a beat around what I'm singing in my head. So
right.
it all depends. But then when you start off with that one piece, now you add everything to it, or you start. It takes you on a journey. It
Mm,
takes you on that journey. That one piano line now took you into, maybe you heard it at first as a doom 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 doom, but maybe it sounds better if you slow it down and it becomes an R&B song. Doom
mm,
doom 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 doom. Doom, doom. Or maybe it comes with hip hop song. It all depends. Sometimes I have a specific song in mind when I sit down, like I want to make this trap beat, or I want to make this old school hip hop track, or I
mm,
want to make this R&B sound. Sometimes I have that in mind. So it all depends on that time, that day, on how I'm feeling. My music reflects how I feel that day for the most part, or at that time. If I feel like I'm making a love song, I'm gonna make a love song. If I feel like I want to
mm,
make a down, dirty, grungy hip hop beat, I'm gonna make a down, grungy, dirty hip hop beat. And then it depends also on the artist that you're making a beat for. There's certain people that I actually create beats for, some
oh,
females
okay.
that sing. Sometimes I'll create a beat for myself. So I can put my own
Mm,
lyrics on there, or I might want to sing to a track, whatever it is. It depends
yeah.
on the inspiration. That's your inspiration. Sometimes just hearing a sound in the street might create
Mm.
a song in your head that you got to go lay down.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the things I was thinking about. I was like wondering if you made beats for other people and how that go. Also, too, usually I notice in the beginning of your beats you have where it says Dark Fan Beats. Like, who'd you get to do that?
To be honest with you, actually, that's my voice recorded.
Oh,
I
wow.
I figured that I needed something to just symbolize my craft into it. I call my
Cool.
production Dark Fam Entertainment, and that actually stands for a whole different. It's a whole different thing, but I love the dark and Dark Fam Entertainment. So what I did was
Oh,
I,
that's
I put
awesome.
my voice in a mic, played around with the frequencies, kind of took out all the low end of my voice. I stretched it so that it can sound a little bit kind of like a child's sound. And then that's where you add the effects of the reverb, some little bit of
Yeah, that's
delay,
crazy.
some distortion, and then you get Dark fam beats. So
Honestly, I would have never in a million years ever thought, but I mean, and this is what I'm saying. This is the creative genius that I'm talking about. It's so interesting. It's funny, man, because, forgive me because I haven't done all the research on, Kanye West or whatever.
mhm,
But, a lot of people say that Kanye is a genius, and how he took all these different types of things that traditionally people in the music industry, producers would have never probably used. And he used those things to make his unique sound. So, I mean, just
yeah,
for you to have the technical knowledge behind how to make something like that, to hear something and to create that, that's where I get really excited about, because the level of creativity that it takes for a person to be able to do that, it's empowering. It's very empowering. I would definitely want to use that word, empowering,
yeah,
when you can have an idea, something that is created in the deep, dark depths of your mind, and you can bring that deep, dark depths of your mind from, if we looked at it from a biological standpoint, it's just chemicals moving around in
right,
your body that creates thought. But from that, you could bring something physically tangible that's either that could be seen, felt, or heard, and it becomes reality, something from complete imagination
yeah,
to
yeah,
physical reality, to physically measurable reality. And when you're able to do that exactly the way that it sounds in your head, or you're able to do that exactly the way, get the exact outcome that you desire, that's certainly a talent. Just imagine if you were that educated about finances,
right,
and, whatever you wanted to do financially, you were able to do that. And I'm talking about not just to make money, but to put together business deals. What if you had communication skills? Develop your communication skills on that level, where
right,
now you're able to, whatever it is that you want to be able to communicate to a person, or maybe influence people, gain support. These are all, I think, are talents that you can't just overlook and kind of push them to the side like, oh, it's just whatever. It's
right, right,
not
right,
just whatever. That's pretty amazing. And even with you, with the music, this is why I was excited to do this interview with you. And I know you're kind of going over a lot of technical stuff, and maybe for some people won't do a whole lot of super technical. They need entertainment. They want to be entertained. But the
right,
thing I would tell people, really listen to this. This is amazing. Here you have a guy that's able to take whatever it is in his mind and create something and manipulate it to where it really sounds like whatever it was in his mind. Like the whole Dark Fan beats that I hear in the beginning of all your stuff, I would have never in a million years knew. I would even thought. I was thinking to myself, like, who's this kid that he got to do that? And that kid's like so clear, like he seems so, I was thinking like, man, that kid hit those notes right because they sound so very clear. It sounds crisp. But now you're telling me it's you. I'm like, man, this guy, you have even more technical skills than I even probably imagined. So that's impressive, man. Seriously, that's impressive.
thank you. It's nothing that not out there already. I mean, I'm quite sure people can go on
Mm,
YouTube and figure out how to create their own logo, their own
mm,
tag to put on their own tracks. So it's really, like I said, it goes back to having a blank canvas and looking at the finished product when you're done and being
mm.
really, really amazed at your own work. Like, wow, I did that. So
Yeah, I want, even hearing all this, man, I really, part of me wanting to do this podcast was to introduce the world to people like yourself, ideas, even ideas that, hey, listen, if there's something that you want to do, go out, seek the knowledge, seek the understanding, work on it, perfect the skill, perfect the craft, and be great at whatever it is that you particularly want to do. But one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast was I want to create a community. That's my next mission. Obviously, I want to get episodes out there. I'm doing everything myself, everything from the art, design, to running all the social media and all that stuff, and actually
right,
doing the interviews, doing my own editing and everything like that. But one of the things I want to do with this podcast is I certainly want to create a community where there's people in our community that have those type of skill sets. Maybe there's a person that can do all the graphic arts and stuff
right,
like that. Maybe it's a person that can do all the editing. Maybe it's a person that's great at promoting. I would love to have those people in my community for people to work together and collaborate and get some stuff out there, make some, obviously make some money off of it, and teach other people how to do that too. Because I think, especially within, and I'm not saying other cultures don't have it, but I'm saying, especially in the Black culture, I think that we're very talented people. It always pains me when I hear that the percentages of wealth that we have, like the amount of income that we have coming in versus the amount of assets and wealth that we maintain, those numbers are concerning to me.
Yeah.
And I want to see, not for because I have this thing where I want black people to completely take over the world and dominate and no, I just think that the numbers are too low for as talented as people that I've come across in my life that were black, brown, people of color. And because I've met some very talented singers, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, how do we translate that into some
Yeah.
type of way that we can provide value to people where people feel comfortable? Like, yeah, I want to spend my money on this because I feel like what I'm getting for the money that I'm spending is way more valuable than the money that I'm actually spending. That I would trade my money for whatever that product is. One of the things, and I've told you this myself, I'll say, I told you privately, say outwardly or publicly, I would love for your music to be more accessible. I would love to have some type of medium or something where you can safely publish what you're working on and people get to hear it and then they get to chime in and tell you what their opinions are. Me and you are friends, we're boys. And I
Right.
think even when you're friends with people, although I think it's very important, let me just preface that and say, I think it's very important that when you're friends with people, you got to be honest with your friends. If you
Exactly.
see something that's wrong with them or something that you don't agree with or you don't even like, give them your honest opinion so people can have your honest. You don't have to be a jerk about how you present that. You don't have to be like, man, your stuff is trash. But if you like something or if you don't like it, you should have that much of a relationship with somebody that you can
Exactly.
say, hey, man, I really think this is good. Or like, I like that, but I didn't like it as much or whatever, that
Exactly.
so people can hear. Me and you are friends. So, of course, I'm already a fan of yours. Of course, I
Thank
like
you.
your music and stuff, but I would love for people that have never heard your stuff, never heard of you to hear your stuff and really share their opinions and say, hey, man, positive or negative. I'd love for you to get that type of feedback so you really know where you are because you're not the only person. There's other people out there that do that. Like earlier you mentioned, about me and my not my group, but the group I was in. All those people are dynamic individuals, and you seeing us up on stage dancing and doing our song and being entertaining and how that motivated you. Honestly, I think that your stuff can motivate other people. One of the
Appreciate that.
things that I will always admit is Vince. He definitely, in my opinion, is a pioneer. He got into stuff or information, just education, just all kinds of subjects and stuff like that he brought me or shared with me. And I was like, man, this is great. And it really became part of who I am. So you
And
never know how you, the individual person, even if it's not your intentions or whatever, but you never know how you, the individual person, can affect other people, and how that might motivate other people. By us dancing up on a stage, we may have motivated you to make some music that you motivate somebody, the next number one, somebody that might be considered the greatest
right.
music maker, if not yourself, in the world or something that contributes to all of mankind as far as music wise. And it was all birthed because when we were younger, we were bold enough and crazy enough and talented enough, I guess, maybe to even just jump on a stage and perform. So
Right. V Love, God bless and love that man, for what he has given me as far as education and as far as his music and the little tutelage that he has
mhm.
given me. He was one of the first producers I went to when I didn't even know how to record myself. He was one of
Mhm.
the first individuals I went into his house and laid down some tracks, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just, hey, this is music. I'm loving it. This is what I'm doing. Hey, let's lay
Right.
down this track. He threw on the beat. I wrote to it and put the track together. And, it's funny because years later, I seen him and he's like, he was working somewhere. I was working somewhere. We was in the same building. And he approached me like, yo, he started spitting this verse. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that verse
Right.
sounds familiar, but that verse sound hot. Who is that? He was like, nigga,
Yeah.
that's you. And I was like, yo. I was like, word? Oh yeah, that's right. That's mine. Oh wow. Just the things like that. There's many people that you meet along the way that you share a
Right.
bond with for whatever reason that you can
Right.
always sit back and respect and get something out of it. That's the problem with today, with the information, rather it be music, rather it be finances, rather it be life itself. With our community, one thing about it is we're so stingy with information. We are so
Mm.
stingy with information. Like if you see a brother doing good, he got 3 cars, 2 houses, and you ask that man how he got there. He gonna give you this
Mm.
story, but he not gonna tell you how he did it.
Mm.
He gonna give you the icing, but he not gonna tell you how to make the cake.
Mm. And sadly, man, I think that's the case with a lot of people. One of the things I think is going to, in the future, as the future goes on, I think it's going to be less of a separation by race and culture. I think it's kind of more of the haves and have nots. I think what we'll see in the future is more people will be separated more by economics than, maybe gender, race, or creed, or any of those type of things, because, a lot of stuff is becoming more blended. Before I forget, is there a place that you are posting your stuff that you're working on? I guess I wanted to ask that question. How does that work? Like, I know
Uh,
you're
no,
making these beats. Are you just like storing them up somewhere and they're just on a file somewhere?
right now, I'm storing, putting my
Mhm.
bullets in the gun.
How many songs you got?
A lot. I got a lot of songs. Some of them unfinished products. Of course, all producers have a whole bunch of unfinished products, and then some
Mhm.
of them are finished products. Matter of fact, I did a video about a year and a half ago or so
Mhm.
that you can see on YouTube. It's called Stand Tall. So that's a video I did called Stand Tall by this Dark Fam Entertainment. If you put Dark Fam hyphen Stand Tall, that video should pop up and you'll be able to see that video. So it's one of the first videos I ever did for a track that I created, my own instrumental, my own lyrics. So everything was homegrown. All the sounds you hear in there
Mhm.
was created. And the voices that you hear in there, you'll hear different voices. Is my voices that I created. So the lyrics and the hook and everything is in there. So it's very
Oh, wow.
I talk about many of things in there in that song.
Nice.
I talk to my son in that song. So yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, right now I'm just making my beats. Some beats I wrote to, some beats I have other artists writing to. I got a female singer that I deal with right
Mhm.
now. Shout out to Lionette Precious. Her voice is lovely, and I got my sis, Lady Lee. They doing their thing. Her son, Roscoe, Rodney Roscoe, Too Wavy. Those are my
Mhm.
nephews, so they do their music. They're killing the young culture right now. So shout out to them
Yeah,
for
shout out to them.
their music. And there's a couple other people that I work with, but right now I can say I'm just making beats for each of us or some of us. And there's certain songs that I like that I'll be like, yo, that's mine. I need to go put some lyrics to it. I'll sit down and I'll write a track to that song. I got another song that I'm about to do that I got from my grandmother. God bless the dead. May she rest in peace. I got a song talking about, how I felt when she was around and
Mhm.
things that she gave me, the knowledge that she gave me, and how much I miss her, things like that. So I got a female who's going to be singing on the hook.
Mhm.
That's really talented, and I really believe in her music and her craft. So
Mhm.
I'm one of them guys that I'm willing to work with a lot of people. I want to work with everybody because when you work by yourself, you don't have nobody else to feed off of. You don't have no one that's in the studio with you, inspiring you. So when you work with other people, you see a side that you probably didn't see by yourself, that you see something that they see. Oh, hey, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do that, or you bump ideas off of each other. So it's fun to work with other people. I love working with other artists, rather it's hip hop, rather it's music.
Mhm.
I got a track where I even got heavy metal guitars in it, and it's a hip hop track.
Mhm.
So it just depends on the inspiration itself, the artist that you're dealing with, whatever inspiration that you might have for yourself. But the biggest thing about it is, and I can't stress this enough, is
Mhm.
that people need to invest in themselves as well as
Right.
others. If you have a dream, don't let go of that dream. Invest in yourself. I know where I came from or what I've came started from. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy
Right.
to
Right.
buy the first piece of equipment, the Triton Studio. You know how much that was running for back then. In
Right.
them days, and I'm just a single parent trying to make it in the world, trying to pay the rent and make ends meet. And you had to take your money and buy your first piece of equipment. It's a struggle. So I understand
Mhm.
it. I get it. But after a while, you start adding one piece, you get the second piece, you get the third piece. You might have some money to get three pieces at one time. Next thing you know, you got a whole production, you got a whole studio. And I look at it like this, man. Who else better to tell you how your music should sound than you? You go to another person's studio, okay, that's cool. They have a beat playing, you might like that beat. But there might be something that you want to change. And who better to do it than you?
Right.
you know? So I look at it like I can make my own tracks and edit them as I please. I might write to it, and then at this particular part, I might want the beat to drop. I don't have to relay that to another producer unless I'm working with another producer. And that's one thing
Mhm.
about Pro Tools. You can work with other producers without going to their studio. I can work with a
Mhm.
producer in London and he can do a melody. I could do the drums. He could do the drums. I could do the melody.
Mhm.
And I don't even have to go to London to work with him.
No, that's awesome, man. Even just thinking about what you're saying, this is me. Obviously, this is your music, your art, it's your life. But I really would love, man, to at least have some type of medium to be able to put your music out there so that people can experience it
Right.
And even hopefully from there, like to even get those type of connections where now you have even more people wanting to work with you. Honestly, man, I believe in you. I believe in your talent, and I don't feel like you're just complete. Obviously I don't know that much, but your music doesn't sound like it's complete novice music to me.
Right.
So, I mean, I know there's somebody that can get something out of it, and I'm sure there's people that can learn from that. I'm not going to ask you for a commitment, but I'm going to say I
That's
definitely want to work with you. I will say this publicly. I definitely want to work with you to get you out there a little bit more. And I understand, believe me, I understand because I'm a creator myself. As a creator, you get so sucked up into your own creation
right.
that
Right.
when we talk about like
Right.
promoting is its own thing. There's people that's just their job, just to promote. That is
Right.
a full-time job itself, just to
Yes, sir.
get you out there. So I understand sometimes when you're creative, when you're in a creative place, in a creative space, you're kind of just stay in that bubble of creation and you don't really get out there. But honestly, I would love to have something. I don't care what the platform is. And I'm gonna say it right now. As soon as we set something like that up, or if it ever comes to be, I'm going to promote it on wherever I can on all my
Yes, sir.
stuff because I want for people to be involved in your music. I want them to hear your music. I want them to be honest. I want them to be honest about what they feel about it. And I want you to be able
Appreciate
to
you.
take that feedback and from there create whatever it is, the product that they want. And I just think that you could definitely benefit. Sounds
Yeah,
cool?
that sounds cool because I plan on going
Mhm.
hard this year. This year, I plan on doing a couple of things. I'm not going to mention what they are, but I plan on presenting myself to the world a little bit more so than I have. I plan on doing a
And that's
video this year,
and I
another
would also
video for a track.
I'm sorry, and I apologize for cutting you off there, but yeah, and I think also too, even in our culture, man, sometimes because people lack the vision, and let me
Mhm.
make this point, because people lack the vision of what your stuff can really be and what it can go, because they lack that vision, a lot of times people are very quick to knock you. Because even in me with doing this podcast, I felt, at least I was told that there was a lot of negativity about me being doing this podcast and all this and that, and even how some things went down. But I really feel that people feel they have the same vision that I have. And because they don't have that vision, of course, they can't see anything in it. Quick story about me. I did stand-up comedy, NAACP talent show. People had planned on going to that event specifically with the intention of booing me.
Wow.
But what they didn't know was I practiced the jokes that I did for that because I had done stand up before in school talent shows and stuff like that.
Hmm.
What they didn't know is that I practiced those jokes over and over and over. I really did a lot of research. I really put a lot of thought, a lot of energy into those jokes. And I knew it was going to be funny. I believed that it was going to be funny. And when I went out there and I told my jokes, not only did they laugh, but I got a standing ovation.
That's what's up.
And I ended up, winning the talent show for my age group. And there was some other really stiff acts out there that arguably could have easily beaten mine or even been better than mine. But maybe why I won is because I had a very clear vision and I executed on that vision
Right.
better than anyone else. And that's what people found entertaining. So
That-
even with this podcast, my goal is to provide a product that is engaging, entertaining, that people will enjoy. And because I feel like we're rooted in the same values and those same core values there, John, it's why I wanted to have you on the show because I see you as a man that there was something that you wanted to do, right? You had a clear vision, you educated yourself, became very proficient at it, and you were able to create a product and multiple products that I feel are of very high quality. And I think that once people hear your music and they're able to be part of or connect with your vision, I think that's when things are going to change for you. I think that's when things are going to take off for you. I believe in it. And
Appreciate
I
it.
would absolutely, man. And I believe that for anybody. And if there's anything that I want this podcast to do, I want to connect with those people.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's people that have met success and they have a story and I want to, hear their story too. I want to interview their stories. I want their stories to be known too. But I think there's something to be said about the obscure, the
Yeah.
person that no one's really thinking about, that's easily probably written off. And I think, especially for our culture, the Black culture, and I'm not saying that all Black people are like this, I'm not speaking for the entire culture, but I'm saying I think that there's plenty of us that have these talents and have these visions, but we're not executing on those visions. We're
Sure.
not trying to monetize it. And because we're not doing that, we're not reaping the rewards for that. And people are not being blessed with our wonderful talents. And even talking about the music industry, I'm sorry for going on this rant, but even talking about the music industry, that is a system that was created to take people's talent and bring it to the masses and make a profit off of it. We
Right.
don't think anything differently about music. Whenever, we hear the next whoever it is artist out there and we like love that music, we don't think about the machine out there that's
Right.
doing it. And what that
Yeah.
machine does is that machine has a clear vision and they execute on that vision. They bring it to the masses for monetary gain.
Sure.
And I think that if individual people like you and I and whoever else that I'll be able to get to have the opportunity to talk to about this, if we can bring those things to the forefront and encourage people and create a safe space for people like, yeah, maybe, you know what, I think I could do this too, and feel like I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a try and have a community out there that can support them in some way, that can maybe give them purpose, direction, or motivation. Then I would have known completely and utterly in my heart that I was successful. And that to me is what I would consider success.
Yes, sir. I believe that is a great thing, especially to reach out to people, help them, uplift them, bring them up. And by us building together and learning together, we can help each other grow and become stronger as a community. Instead of having our community torn down from within with all this stuff that's going on, we don't need the gang violence. We don't need the drugs in the community. We've
Mhm.
been there, done that. Let's promote positivity. Let's promote
Yeah,
togetherness.
let's support each other. I mean,
Let's
I would love
support
to
each
see,
other.
yeah, let's support each other. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, especially if you're doing, we're all adults. We have access to good reason. So if you see that somebody's trying to do something positive and they're not tearing anybody down, why would you not support them? It
Right.
just doesn't even make sense to not do that. So, with that said, man, I want to just take a moment to thank you again for doing this interview with me. I will definitely send you a shout out as soon as I get this information processed and
Yes, sir.
edited, and I'll give you an opportunity to hear it first.
Yes,
And
sir.
the only thing I ask in return, obviously, is share with your friends, help me to grow, partner with me to help me create this community that I desire to create here, brother.
I look forward to hearing myself, your other conversations and interviews. I got you plugged in. Brothers Talks. I'm supporting it. Brothers Talks, because brothers do need to talk. And the thing that I hear that you're doing right now, to me, is phenomenal. You're dealing with wealth. You're trying to uplift other people. You're trying to teach other people about wealth, finances, rather it deals with stocks, bonds. I mean, those are important key aspects that a lot of us don't know about. And if you're going to teach us that aspect of our life that we're missing, I'm all for it. I got a little bit of knowledge in it and I learned it. It has helped me along the way to build a little bit of wealth, to have some financial freedom, to learn how to invest, rather it's in yourself, rather it's in a business, rather it's in realtor, whatever you decide to invest in. It's always helpful to have somebody actually give you a way to get there, because a lot of us don't know how to get there. And we have people like yourself, and much love to you, much love to the success of Brothers Talk. I would love to see this flourish and go further. And I'm looking forward to hearing more interviews.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. I
Yes,
definitely
sir.
appreciate it. It does not go unappreciated. I certainly appreciate it, brother. So
Yes,
let's
sir.
try to make a difference, man. Let's go forward and try to make a difference.
I look forward to being on here again. Like I said, I will be doing some things this year. Plan on opening up a little bit more and sharing with the public. So anytime, brother, anytime.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Brother Talk. Please like, share, and comment. I look forward to hearing whatever you have to say and your